Hello, my name is Maruta. I'm going to take care of a Japanese legal system course, and it is very rare and odd to see you for the first time through video lecture, but I hope we can see directly in the before summertime. And first of all, today I will discuss about Japanese legal history and the formation of Japanese legal system. But before that, I'd like to make it clear how this course is organized and how, in what way you can participate. I usually give 30 minutes lecture at the classroom, and then I will call your name and then discuss the issue one by one in the classroom. But we cannot do that. So I will give some lecture about the topic, but you have a chance to respond to me through the, I will post reading assignments 1 week before the class. Next week we will deal with Japanese legal matters related to the women's rights. And so I posted already. So every week I will post reading assignments. So you can pick up some of your topics, and also one of the papers I assigned, and then just to respond to me by email, 2-3 pages comment on the paper before the class, so that you can understand more deeply about the issue I'm going to raise in the class. So please send me your comment, respond. It is called as a response paper. So it is good to know what you are thinking about. And we can also communicate by email. So through that way, so far, we should communicate, and I'll give you lecture every time. So maybe you have a question about my class, grading, reading assignments. Please feel free to ask me, to send my email. So I'd like to respond to you personally, or if it is mutual interest in information, I'll spread to all students who registered this class. So since we confronted kind of inconvenience, but we have to overcome this kind of barriers. So just get acquainted with you, and then hopefully at the end of this class, I'd like to see you directly. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Takashi Maruta. I used to teach at Kansai Gakuin Law School, and I quit it, and then I went to United States. And now I'm a part-time professor at NYU, New York University School of Law. So I went there to teach Japanese legal system, and also Asian law, one of the Asian countries such as China, Taiwan, Korea, and other nations, and Indonesia, including Japan. But because of coronavirus, my class this coming fall is cancelled, and it will postpone to the 2021. I'm not sure whether they will offer me another chance to teach there. And also, I'm a registered lawyer, and so originally I planned to take you to the court to see the criminal trial, but this is already, court itself is closed, and every case is postponed. So nothing fun, but I'd like to make the class fun and stimulate you about the Japanese legal system. And this is not particularly legal, class. I mean, legal studies class. That is very boring, What I'm going to do is through the legal system or to analyze legal issues, I'd like to, give you a chance to learn more about Japanese reality and how Japanese or Japanese society are thinking. That's very important. So the first point I would like to emphasize in the class is through legal issues, you can learn more about Japan and Japanese society. So that's the most important point which I would like to offer. So you have already printed this my handouts. Every class I will give you handouts so that you can learn, you can know beforehand what I'm going to teach in the lecture. And I will also use a PowerPoint because maybe you'll get tired to see my face every time through the video. So I will just use a PowerPoint slide with my voice. So you can see slides and information more particular way rather than seeing my face, what I'm talking to. So today I will just go to follow the system. The first thing is class style. Used to be, as I said, 30 minutes lecture and followed by a discussion among us. But now I will do videotape or PowerPoints with voice. So what I'd like to ask you is to leading assignments, even one of them. It's very important because when I come here to teach you the contents of the topic of the week, maybe you can understand, but superficially. You cannot learn deeply what the issue is. So it will help you if you leading assignment beforehand. I strongly recommend that. All right? And grading, that's the point. That's a very serious matter about you. So maybe I will give you a chance 3 or 4 times. I should say 4 times. You have a chance of 4 times to respond to me. And finally, I'll give you some assignment on the topic you'd like to choose. So you can send me again paper, and I'd like to basically relying on your paper submitted to me. So you can pick up, and of course you have a syllabus of whole class, and you will have some point what I'm going to teach. So you can choose one of them and 4 times, and that's required. And finally, I'll give you a chance to report me, and to submit a report about the topic you prefer. How about that? So I will do that. At the end of, almost the end of the class, I'll do that. So that's grading. And now, what I'm going to do is about Japanese legal history of development. Now, that's very interesting because I think history is sometimes very interesting, sometimes very boring. But what I say is, the legal system, we say legal system. But where I say the law. What is the law? Law covers the first administration law, I should say, yeah. How the government tries to administer or control people, or keep the peace and strengthen the social welfare and protects individual rights. In any way, government has a mission to do some administrative matter. That's in other words, it's a kind of power of politics, administrative law. And on the other hand, we have human rights. is more interesting is, in all the times, this happened, but this never happens. Individual human rights. So I would say Japanese legal system, Japanese legal history is mainly, you should pay or you should remember 4 points, 4 stages to make Japanese legal system. That's 4 points. It's very important. And because, around 4 or 5 centuries in Japan, they finally, made up one central government. Before that, every prefecture, every region has their own master, lord, and they just, live together. But Yamato Chote came in and they just built one nation. When it becomes one nation, they'll start to do some foreign affairs, diplomatic matters with China, Korea, and other countries. And also, they try to govern all nations. But usually they do that with threatening and power. That's a bare power, violence, and kind of enforced power. So, first stage, Japan, first, they adopted Chinese law, that is Taiho Ritsu. That's 701. It's easy to remember, right? 701. That's the beginning of 8th century from China. Before that, of course, after this also, but around that time, before even Yamato Chote era, Japan is very much influenced by China's culture, religion, and also scholastic models. They adapted everything from China through Korea. Also, Korean scholars and priests and some engineers came to Japan, teach Japanese people how to produce and other things. Especially at that time, Japan adopted Chinese law. It's a Taiho era, so Taiho Israel. Taiho is the emperor's year name. Okay, so there's a name. But here, that's important. Ritsu and Ryo. Ritsu is kanji character is Ritsu, and Ryo is Ryo. Then it's order. Okay, order. It is also order, but maybe about the system. So at that time, first codified law has only Ritsu and Ryo. So it has only administrative law and criminal law. So you can imagine at the beginning of the nation, the person who governs the country trying to emphasize to keep the order, or social order, and public safety. Because they have to keep their own, power. Otherwise, they will be, overturned. So they care more about keeping order in society. For that, they have to provide criminal system. If someone did something wrong, it must be punished. That's a very old law, criminal law. You see Mesopotamia and also Hammurabi, Bible and other things. Usually the law came as a criminal law. And also, as a nation, they have to organize bureaucratic system. So already in Japan, that's important. They try to establish bureaucracy. I don't know. This is the correct bureaucracy. Maybe this is a wrong spelling, but bureaucracy, bureaucratic system in 8th century, the beginning of 8th century, because how government should be governed or who is responsible a particular matter is very much serious things to keep the nation peacefully and amicably. So that's the first step. But the next stage is samurai. That is warrior age. Usually we say Kamakura to Tokugawa. So I should say century is 12th century to 16th, so 17th century. This is a long time, but actually what the government did is to establish samurai warriors government, and how this bureaucratic noble class people are replaced by warriors, samurai people, or bushi people, is the power. They had a power struggle. Because usually samurai was a government. They are just try to protect noble class people. But actually, while noble people are doing very slowly something not so serious about governing, the warrior people has more power. When I say power, is physical power, arms, or say army. They have their own soldiers, and there are lots of battle. I mean, they have civil war inside in Japan. And the first winner is Kamakura, Minamoto people. They won every battle. So they started samurai warrior government. The first time they provided law, modified Ritz-Ryo system, but still emphasized on criminal law. So I should say AL and criminal law. Because they try to keep their safety and also peace by using power. I should say violent army power. So in that way, but I would say more at this time, the law is more sophisticated. I should say more organized, more systemized. And so it's easy for the bureaucrats, BEU, bureaucrats. I don't know. Anyway, forget it. I'm sorry. Bureaucrats. Bureaucrats. So the samurai warrior has, the people who manage, who take care of police power, who take care of judgment, enforcement of law, who take care of accounting. That's a systematic administrative law. So they had also this one, and criminal, very severe one. When I come to the death penalty topic, I will explain how their criminal law was severe and less, so illusory. You can see that. So this is the second stage. And third stage, 17th century, and at the time, as you know, the 16th century and 17th century in Europe or in the United States, that's a kind of transition time from a particular region to the after the Renaissance, to the going to the abroad after Columbus or Amerigo, some other people, or Vasco da Gama, and anyway, they try to finding a new continent, and so expanding. Influenced by those people who happen to come to Japan. And they just say Japanese government is very bureaucratic way and feudalistic way. The first people, first foreigner came to knock the door of Japanese government is Perry, and it's from America. And they asked the shogun to open the door for them. Of course, their economic interest. I mean, they had in mind for their own interest. Every time, foreign policy is their own interest. It's not international peace or something under the name, but they are just trying to seek their interests. And they asked Japan to open the port and other things. And Japanese people are surprised because they just shut the door, like Corona era. They just shut down any transactions and any going and accepting other people. Of course, there's exceptions. So the third stage, because of international pressure and also due to Tokugawa government irresponsible mothers, and it was overturned by other people who are not samurai, who are civilized. So in Meiji Restoration, in 1867, Japan finished the samurai warriors country. They just announced they're going to start a modern country. But look, when you say modern country to compete with other foreign, forces, they have their own law, especially not only criminal law, they have their contract law and individual law and sometimes human rights law. But Japan has nothing. So what Japan do usually, they do is adopt European law. Especially German law. It is called a Preußen at that time, German law. Why German law? That's a very good question. Well, because Japan restored emperor system, by replacing samurai warriors. So they will restart emperor system like this age. So look at the European countries, France now, England now, but look, Prussia, Germany, they have a very similar emperor system. So they adopted German law system. Okay, that's a very interesting point. By that way, Japan accepted civil law countries' law. European law is usually influenced by Roman law, Roman people or ancestors of the Italian people, they're very smart, and they already, at the turn of the century, AD and BC, they were already contract law. They have exchange law, market law, tax law, succession law, very sophisticated. They have a system. It is called as Roman law. It is also called as civil law. Because when they are citizen, they were guaranteed to transact in any way. So at that time, Roman law is a kind of model law. So after Roman law, Germany, France, or say other countries, anyway, you can name anything. In European countries, they adopted German law. The Roman law. Roman law, one of the features is it is a written law. So they have a book. They have a law book like that. They have a statute here. But in England, maybe Roman tried to occupy, but Roman law they did not have they were not influenced by Roman law. So they, after the Norman conquest, they invented their own way to do some legal matters. That is a common law. It is a precedent-based legal system. So that's not statutory book. That law must be decided based on the prior past decision. So the facts are the same. You should apply this case law to that one, new one. That is total system, different. So from England, it's spread to United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Hong Kong, or other countries, but very limited. But still, at that time, German law is very influential at that time. So Japan adopted. Anyway, Japan has nothing, so they invented and they invited scholars, experts, lawyers from foreign countries. First stage from France, was not, and from Germany, and they just asked them to provide suitable law. So they asked to enact, draft the Japanese law. And it was very much, urgent job, because Japan tried to appeal to foreign countries and foreign forces that Japan is also one of modernized country. Otherwise, Japan still, have to keep their incomplete or unbalanced, inferior, unfair treaty with other developing country or forces of that time. Right? You understand that. So just they built that. But the system is very much German. One important point is German law itself is very much bureaucratic system. So Japan likes bureaucracy, bureaucrats, very much. Someone should govern people. We did not have people should govern the government. That's a very important point. So, since long time ago, Japan likes to be governed by bureaucrats. And look at this German law. It's also bureaucrats system. So bureaucratic system is adopted in Meiji time. This is very essential, important point, because it is related to how Japan is involved in World War II. Okay, so how Japan invaded other countries, bureaucrats, bureaucracy, European influence. There's no people's voice to decide such a way. Because it is, can you say Meiji Restoration and Meiji government is democratic country? No, it is governed by the emperor. All right? Emperors. You know that so people are just fellow people, subjects of the government, of the emperor. Emperor and then bureaucrats and the people. Okay? But it didn't work. And finally, Japan was attacked by 2 atomic bombs and killed 200,000 or 300,000 people. In one time, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and Japan surrendered. So, 1945, Allied forces who fought with Japan came to Japan and asked a lot of things. One of the things, they called that as a reform of Japan, is they just provided, or they just tried to give them the modern, I should say, democratized legal system. That's the form. So after World War II, it is adopted legal. After World War II, they adopted more democratic legal system. It symbolized its new constitution. We will learn more. This is a very good constitution, I should say, thanks to the Allied forces. Okay, now this is a very important point. You should pay attention. I said, law covers administration, how to govern the government, how to control the people, how to keep the peace, how to provide welfare benefits and other things by administrative law. Who is responsible, what matter? Bureaucratic system, that's important. The government does that. Sometimes the people say rule of law, or governance by the law. Well, they didn't say it should be for the individual people who formed that country. In Japan, there was never, they did not have the idea of human rights before World War II. Even immediately after World War II, they did not think human rights is important. So I will tell more about the concrete issues and social issues we confront in Japan. It's usually related to this idea. They did not have human rights idea. Human rights idea all of a sudden came here. So they, find out, wow, human rights. Indian people has a right even against the government. They have their own rights, which can resist government order. They learned for the first time after 1945. Look at this. Now 2020, it's only 65 years over. Just a short period, we learn human rights idea. Human rights, where it came from? It's from European countries and other developed countries. They say that after civil revolution, thanks to the Locke, Montesquieu, and other philosophers, most important thing is to keep, the government should keep or protect people by based on human rights. Even emperor or king or minister or president cannot take away the individual people's human rights. That's the first time it came here, and Japanese constitution wrote that way. But as I said, again, even that, because long history of bureaucracy or bureaucratic governance, long time, even Taiho and warrior age, Meiji Restoration, bureaucrats governs everything, and then the fellow people just follow that decision. That's the idea, right? So they, for the first time, learned about human rights matter for the first time. So government changed. Well, I should say, yes, government has been changed from Meiji to after World War II by the national election. Diet was organized by people's voting. That's fine. But the idea of cabinet or administrators has bureaucratic idea. And people just follows. Japan is very easy country to control people because they never complain about the government or matters. They will write in the social network system and they complain or they just talk about government or they speak a lot of governmental things at the drinking place or other things, but they never fight against the government. They're so obedient. So in that, my observation, maybe you have different observation. So how law works? Law sometimes, someone say law is a kind of result or rules or final stage of social norms. Society has their own norms, their own rules. Therefore, it was provided as a written law. It is law, but it came from social, the base of the ground of social matters. They picked up as a rule. That's a law. No, law sometimes comes first and tries to change situation or status quo or factual matters which are behind from legal point of view or human rights point of view. So the issue now here is, can law change the people's idea or people's behavior or not? That's the most important issue, and I will repeatedly raise this issue again and again to you. If so, I should say, yes, Maruta-san, law can change society or people's idea. So what kind of law is important? It's also important. And how, who, in what way law can really influence people's behavior is the point of study, right? It should be more analyzed. It should be more explained. Law, society, how it interrelate. So law sometimes has administrative power to order people something, but also they have to finalize or they have to realize people's human rights to be a more happy life. Okay, so that's the point. So I'm now going to the number 6, the basic concept through this course, how law influences over the social structure and ideal tips, idea of society. A very important issue, one of the point is the number of lawyers. Do you think the number of lawyers, number of licensed lawyers are important? In other words, the more lawyers exist, the better the society becomes? Or maybe yes or no. Look at the United States. As the data shows, they have 1.2 million lawyers among almost 30 million people. Many lawyers. When you go to the Washington, D.C., and you go to anyway, Massachusetts Avenue or Ann Avenue, Ann Street, in any way, when the traffic cross, the walking road, if you slow the, some stone, small stone, maybe it hits lawyer in Washington, D.C. There are many lawyers in Washington, D.C. You can see the same thing in New York, Fifth Avenue. You can slow, Fifth Avenue is full of tourists, but in Wall Street, you go there and throw the stone. Maybe it hits lawyers. Japan, look at Japan. It's only 40,000. But we have almost half population of the United States. The United States, more than 1 million. 12 million actually? No, 1.2 million. Japan, 40,000. And other countries such as Germany, they also have 165,000. France, well, France and Japan are very similar, 65,000. United Kingdom, 147,000. China is increasing rapidly. I think it's already more than 300,000 people. Of course, China has many people, but I think a very small portion of the lawyers. Maybe they don't need lawyers, I think. It's Japan, such a small number. Why? Why to be a lawyer in Japan is very difficult? Or government has no intention to increase the number of lawyers? Lawyers is not involved in resolving some conflicts. It is handled by bureaucrats. Government will take care of everything. So relax, you don't have to hire any lawyers. We will do that. So you should go to City Hall and ask some window to consult with your case. Consumer case, building case, neighborhood case, child adopting case, every section they respond to you. Okay, administration will do something. So if they are disappointed about that resolution or that idea, that proposal, they finally come to the lawyer's office. I cannot accept that kind of idea. It is against my rights, or they deprived of my rights. Then lawyers, okay, I will take care of that. So you will be surprised. Number of litigations in Japan, very low. Well, that's a comparison matter. Whether I compare is a very important point. So it's very tricky. When I say compare to the United States, Japanese number of litigation is very small. It's not fair comparison. US is different, very different. So we should say Germany, France, other countries, but still Japanese litigation is small. So, in other words, Japanese people never say, never appeal, never speak out about their human rights. They don't care about human rights. When one person, they don't care about his or her human rights, that person never pay attention to others, other people's human rights. That's the most important point. When you think yourself has human rights, you should keep it and protect it from the governmental invasion. That you accept. You don't want to give up your rights, every rights, because it is written in Constitution. But it is okay. Other people are taken by that way. You should say, don't do that. It is no good. But if you don't care about your rights, you have no intention, no imagination to speak out about others' things. That's the most important thing. It's the law. It's not domestic matters. Law is very international when we focus on human rights. Okay? That's a very important point. We learn legal matters. Law is very much domestic matters to deal with. Domestic market, domestic relations in one country. But law goes over that fence, borders. Because people are trying to seek, to realize, to keep their human rights. So human rights point is very important. If the small number of the lawyers are small, people has not sufficient chance to meet with, discuss with the case with lawyers, expert of the law. They try to solve their case kind of in between way, 50% give up, 50% okay, or that kind of thing. Japanese people likes compromise. It's quicker, no less stress,